Hello, everybody. Welcome to the worst idea of all time again. It's probably not your first time here. I'm going purely by the numbers, by the probabilities and statistics. I reckon you've joined us before. We are watching all of the Emmanuelles. Right now, we're in the middle of the 7 made-for-television French Emmanuelles that come after the canonical... Is that the word, Guy?
Yeah, why not?
First 8 that set us up. Sylvia Cristal and George Lazenby take us through a myriad stories through the skies while on a plane. We hate it in terms of a device, but they've stuck with it nonetheless.
You say that. I actually have come around. These are some of the scenes I look forward to the most now. And I don't know that they've produced 7 feature films in a year, so I don't know that we're watching them exactly sequentially as they were meant to be released. We watched the first one first, and I think that's what's important. But I think they're starting to have a bit of fun with the fact that they're on a plane. I don't know if you noticed in the very opening scene, Tim, but some of the other passengers, there's one man who's wearing a buttoned-up shirt all the way to the top and a sort of grey suit. And they love just showing you what he's up to, which is usually dozing or just sitting with his eyes open and then panning across to Lazenby and Cristal as they reminisce. Today there was another woman, a different passenger, who was sort of floating a hot towel in front of his face. He was totally unfazed.
He waved the towel away when it was offered to him. Whereas George Lazenby, on the other hand, can't get enough of these towels.
He even likes the way they smell.
I love wiping my face with these towels. You see, that's a line in this movie.
This is the thing, is like they've got the most extraneous, it all seems to me to be slightly extraneous, but there's something about the familiarity of being put on the plane and sort of watching these two fumble their way through their lines that I'm coming to enjoy.
Also, important to note that we are in dubs over subs territory right now, but all the Sylvia and George dialogue on the plane is in English, and we are hearing it as it was recorded between
the two. It's as crisp as a potato chip.
Yeah, that is exactly the right analogy for a bit of audio. Crisp like a fried spud. So we open in the air, we get the threat of a story from Emmanuelle. And George Lazenby, to his credit, has got to be the most generous passenger to be sitting next to. The most generous companion.
Not even just on a plane. A listener from whom we could all learn a lesson or two. Someone with the miraculous ability to be interested in literally anything. Like the most insanely indulgent divergences from the main thrust of a story that's being told. You could tell George Lazenby about leaving the house to go and buy a pint of milk from the dairy, and within that get distracted by all of the other times you've walked to various different dairies to buy milk. And like every time you make an aside, Lazenby would lean closer to you while rubbing his elbow on his massive honking erection to say, "Do tell me more. I love your stories."
You would be telling him about 17 people you met who have no consequence to the path of you getting the milk, and he would still just be gagging for more details about this fucking story. Sorry, I'm going to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, Guy. I don't know if that's... Oh, you probably can't hear that, but it's vibrating up a storm.
Is someone blowing up your phone?
Yeah, Ben McGugan wants to know what kind of thing he needs to buy because he's doing a podcast or something.
This is a guy who we both just lent recording equipment for about 3 months during a pandemic and didn't record a podcast.
He recorded nothing. He sent it back. This is a man who is famous. He's a very funny comedian, famous for simply refusing to wear shoes. The guy fucking hates footwear. I've seen him perform on multiple occasions in New Zealand's only full-time comedy club, The Classic, not wearing shoes, which I think is illegal. I'm pretty sure it's a health and safety violation.
I respect the commitment to the bit, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Let me throw some names at you, Guy. I kind of don't even... I can't even be bothered doing this story or the plot this time. And listen, man, that sounds like a dodge, actually, me saying that. It sounds like I didn't pay attention to the movie. I fucking did. Quiz me I could answer any question. I rewound bits because I could feel my mind drifting, and I just made sure that I like crammed it all into my head because I'm getting into that familiar worst idea terrain now of like, I fucking hate this, it sucks, but now it's like I've got to do it properly or else it's truly meaningless.
Yeah, that is actually a fantastic way of framing it, is that if we aren't, the coolest thing is if we're not paying attention to the material, then
we're only cheating ourselves.
That's right. We're not wasting your time, we're wasting our time, you know.
Mate, it's not my lunchtime. I could do this all day.
Yeah. I know. I'm sorry, sir. I don't think we need to recount the plot because it's very thinly laid out. I would actually quickly like to shout out the producers. And I'm not talking about your sort of top-end money men, you know, the people who are funneling cash into this enterprise. I'm talking about your fucking boots on the ground, logistical, bloody call sheet writing, you know, line producers. The people who are going out there and coordinating 7 feature-length soft-core pornography films being filmed in a calendar year across 52 different international locations in a 52-week year. I mean, this film is called Emmanuelle in Venice. So naturally, its closing number is told from Mumbai, I believe.
That was fucking nuts, man. We get to the 1 hour and 14 minute mark of a movie that is 1 hour and 28 minutes of a film, as you rightly point out, titled Emmanuelle in Venice, and it's like, well, we better go to India. Why? It wasn't even that important. It was so funny how they presented it like it was this thread that absolutely needed to be like tied up for the audience. No one gives a shit.
Of the 3 we've seen, this was the most meandering and inconsequential story. This was the one that I found.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, you know, I watched it, but I wasn't really abreast of the motives. I'm
gonna do it. I said I wasn't gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Do it in a minute, okay? Your time.
Timing me?
Yep, your time starts now.
We've got a woman called Anais. She's rich. She gets 100 marriage proposals a day, but she does not look at them. She whips her maid, Maria, for some reason. She's in love with John, and John is dead. They fuck with a rabbit's foot. The two, the maid and the rich lady, and there's synthy church organs. It's very dramatic. Then we have the mother, who is confusingly 6 months older than the daughter by the looks of her. That's Penelope. Penelope had a partner who was either named John or Charlie. I got a bit
30
confused.
seconds remaining.
Died in 1972. Since then, she has not taken another man or worn the colour white. Then we've got Jenkins. He's a butler. He wants the weekend off. We don't know why, but I suspect someone in his family has died. Now, when Penelope gets a letter, she is overcome with joy and lets the butler know, Jenkins, that he can have the day off. But the letter turns out to be a proclamation that this person she loved is dead. Then we later find out that he isn't dead. What has happened?
That's your time.
Oh, fuck. 10 seconds.
Yeah, go.
Penelope's mother doesn't like John/Charlie, so she's been intercepting all the mail and stopping it from getting to her. So he was assumed dead. He didn't die. She also sent letters back to John/Charlie saying that Penelope wasn't interested. So he moved to India to be a doctor for children, which we get to right at the end.
Yeah, and you'll be pleased to hear there are lots of shots of the patients to which this reputable doctor tends. No softcore pornography skin flick out of France in the year 1993 is complete without a stop at a children's hospital in India.
Nothing says sex like a children's hospital in Mumbai.
I found myself furiously trying to come throughout the entirety of the film, and I quite simply couldn't until, of course, the orgasmic crescendo that involves a doctor at a children's hospital tending to his patients.
My favorite line in the entire movie was, so Emmanuelle takes Penelope, who's like crestfallen, and Emmanuelle, for some reason, just knows everything. I guess she's the world's greatest detective, in addition to being supernaturally good at sex and possessing a potion that turns her into every woman.
That's why wouldn't, if you had the ability to sort of metamorphosize into any other person's form, there's no reason that you couldn't very well become the best spy in the... but your heart does need to be pure.
Your heart needs to be pure. This was always James Bond's problem.
Is that right?
Well,
Is that where they lifted that line from? The Bond franchise?
It's from the Bond franchise. A lot of Bond parallels in these Emmanuelle movies.
Is that what
George Lazenby himself.
Q says when she's showing him some sort of biro that if you put the top down, it shoots a dart.
James, you must remember, this pen will explode on the 7th click. However, only if you are pure of heart. That's from GoldenEye.
Great film. Even better game.
Back to and that is rare. That never happens. So my favorite line was we get to the end of the movie where this guy is in a fucking doctor's coat at a doctor's office being a doctor tending to kids. And when Emmanuelle says, I'll see you later, doctor, Penelope says, doctor? Come on, man. You got this, Penelope. You got on the plane, you somehow managed international travel, and you couldn't put the pieces together that the guy is a doctor. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you did a great job there, Tim. And let me tell you, as someone who recently watched the film and is professionally invested in finding the plot interesting, it was no more enjoyable, the much more expedient second time around. It's just like I'm having a huge amount of trouble becoming aroused. Not that that's the goal, but it is a curiosity. You know, we've watched enough now that I'm like, well, what am I looking to extract from these films? It's like it's the worst of both worlds, where I really want to be invested in the characters, and this film has
time
ample...
for the boner inspector to make himself known.
Boner inspector, boners, please.
Let's have a look at these rubber bands.
Let me see if I can fit the finger between the rubber band and the flesh.
Pull down your decks and cough, because I've got to check some rubber bands, boys.
Flaccid again, I see. Well, better luck next week.
I could have got there. I reckon I could have got like a little half chub, maybe, when Maria was having sex with what was Penelope's daughter's name? Fucking
someone.
Aeneas. Or they say it weird. They say like Aeneas or something.
Not like we say it. We say it normal.
We say it the correct way. Aeneas.
The creators of the character, they say it fucked up.
They say it all fucking weird and wrong. When those two were going at it, I think if there was a different soundtrack, maybe my body would have let me go there.
Happy to hear it.
Unfortunately, we had this crazy dramatic synthy church organ soundtrack, which they kept coming back to throughout the film, which was wholly inappropriate. It felt like a scary little Halloween flick.
Can I just say, Tim, this is ancillary but also relevant. I have I'm a tech guy now, and I've got one of these watches that are they're smart. Not like that fucking idiotic watch I was rolling around with that told me the time.
That shit.
This guy's bright as all hell. And I just got a notification. This is my second day wearing the watch. And it said in a sort of orange, quite urgent font, it said, "Stress seems high at the moment. Take a minute to breathe?" ?
Oh, no. And what do you think that's about, Guy? Let's talk that out.
To be fair, outside of watching this movie and recording this podcast, I have had a sensationally relaxing 24 hours since buying and putting this watch on my wrist. And so I think I've probably set an unreasonably high expectation for relaxation and perhaps heart rate. And now, as I become animated, frustrated, aroused, and excitable, it's probably saying, well, this is outside of the ordinary for the body that we're used to dealing with. So maybe this guy needs to take a step back and take his hands off the mic and just breathe.
So you've trained your smartwatch at your below baseline level of too chilled out and entertainer. And now when you go back to work, it's like, who's this guy? Oh, well, you better know this guy.
And not deliberately, I hasten to add. I have no desire to trick my smartwatch, although that would be a good sort of thing to research.
Mate, I think it's important. I'm big at. We need to keep fucking up the algorithm so it can't get too good at what it's doing. We've got to keep tricking it. There should be a movement and TV shows and a whole like cultural sort of era of us trying to fuck up the algorithm a little bit.
I don't disagree.
Put your smartwatch on a dog. That'll fuck it up.
Yeah.
I won't know what to think.
How smart are you then? Are you going to keep tabulating my data or tell me how stressed out this fucking dog is? Pretty stressed out, I imagine. It's got a watch on its paw.
Absolutely. Yeah, but the trick is it's not me. It's the dog. So now your data is worthless.
Yeah. Nothing really reduces the idea of a smartwatch to more of a puddle than a watch trying to tell a dog to take a moment to breathe. It's a dog, you stupid watch.
Yeah, you have to relinquish your title of smartwatch when you get strapped to a dog and tell that to chill out. That's fucking. You just lost your degree, mate. You lost your degree from Smart Electronics Polytechnic.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's in Connecticut.
But that's
where they go.
The thing about us is that you and I, though, we're smart.
We're clever. We're smart guys.
We are intelligent, and we've got a huge body of evidence that we've built together over the years that supports this claim.
Guy, what's the smartest thing you know?
Tim Bat.
Did you say the bat?
I said Tim Bat.
Oh, that's very nice.
And personally, the smartest thing I know is if you close the door behind you, unless it was already open. Just like leave doors how they were, unless obviously the door's doing the wrong thing, in which case, correct the door. So
yeah,
and there's not a lot of room for wriggle room in that.
I'd actually quite like to dig a bit more into the door thing if we could. So the first thing you said was shut the door. Shut the door when you come through it. Make sure that it's closed. Guy, nobody can see this, but Guy is on a video chat with me, and he's just lost his marbles. I'll give him a minute to follow his watch's instructions and take a breath.
I'm right here. I stand behind that claim. So far, so good. Shut the door.
So, yep, shut it. Unless we don't.
Yep, there are circumstances in which the door should not be closed, as detailed by Tim. Well, you know, if you go to your friend's house and they've got the front door open and you walk through the front door, they're obviously sending out a statement to passers-by, to people in the house. There's a relaxed atmosphere. It's probably warm outside. Leave the door open and enjoy the house as it was laid out for you on arrival. If you arrive at your friend's house and they say the door's unlocked, but the door's closed, open the door, close the door behind you. If you arrive at your friend's house and the door's locked and the windows are all shut and locked and you can see people in there, but everything's locked, and you knock on the door and they sort of ignore you, and you knock on some of the windows and you call them up and you see them look at their phone and they see you're calling and they put the phone back in their pocket and you think, that's weird. I would, at that point, I would break into the house and start asking questions. Do you know that you've got a broken window? Did you know the front door was locked?
Would you like this door open or closed?
Yeah.
Because I've opened it.
Yeah.
But now I'm unclear because it wasn't open. I had to open it. Maybe you want it open now.
Maybe they do. I mean, it's a pretty fucking simple principle, Tim. Don't see a lot of room for confusion.
Mate,
here.
I'm a smart guy. I'm on board. I understand it. I get it because we're both two smart people talking about smart things.
With over 300 hours of substantive and supporting documents that highlight only the finest caliber of decision making.
Let me do some math. Hold on.
Wish you fucking would. Allow me to quote George Lazenby.
1,080,000 seconds of podcasts. 1,080,000 seconds of smartness.
Thank you. And I'd like to give a huge pat on the back and applause to anyone who is a sort of completionist and enough of a masochist to have spent every single one of those seconds in our company. There must be people out there who have done that.
Yep, there's a few. They're out there.
I mean, we certainly have. I've been here the whole time.
Well, in a way, you haven't listened to an episode of our podcast ever.
Yeah, but that's just on principle, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
If the hosts of the podcast aren't going to respect themselves, then why the fuck should I?
Huh. I guess you've got me there, man. Hey, what animal do you think is the most fuckable?
Oh, great question. Immediate answer is a dolphin, just because of...
I was going to go with dolphin too.
Just like sort of passing evidence and anecdotal sort of documents that I think Duncan Trusslitters has a fantastic drunk history where he recounts the research of LSD in conjunction with sexual relations to dolphins.
Oh, that is the perfect guy to deliver that story. Fuck, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, man, that is so far up your alley. He talks about how NASA was funding this research, and then they found out someone was jerking off the dolphins for pleasure.
David Farrier told me about this experiment. I'd never heard of it before. They fucking flooded a whole house too, and then their funding got cut midway through. And then this person just had to house a dolphin, and they developed a sexual relationship with it. And then they were like, "This is not good."
Yeah,
they kept feeding the dolphin LSD. That was the point, right? They were doing heaps of LSD.
I think initially. I can't remember. I mean, it's all covered in the story, but either they wanted to be able to speak dolphin or they wanted the dolphin to be able to speak English.
Yes. Fuck, man. Acid gives you some ideas, doesn't it? Let's get this house, and do you know what I see for it? Let's seal it up, flood it, and put a dolphin in here for me to talk to and possibly fuck. And we're going to get NASA to pay for it. And for a while, they did. Pretty good. Pretty good from them.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I'm with you on dolphins. I'd say land-based, probably the most sexually appealing animal's got to be a horse.
Really?
Right? What? What do you mean, really?
They've got
course.
Great muscle definition.
They're just so, sleek and beautiful.
They're so big.
What do you... a dolphin's pretty large.
Yeah,
I guess you get different ones.
More to our scale. Like a horse is so big. It's, it's...
Mate, dolphins would be as big as a horse.
No way, Jose. Nah.
You don't reckon?
Maybe some. Maybe your top-range dolphins. But the ordinary size of a horse would be far greater than that of a dolphin.
I reckon you're getting spoiled by New Zealand's Hector's dolphins.
No.
Because I think they're littler.
I don't doubt that dolphins are big. And there is something terrifying about having sex on a different, the animal's terrain. If you're having sex with a horse, at least you're on land. If you're having sex with a dolphin, it's quite fearful. As Tim has said, they're pretty big. It's a pretty fearful thing to have to hold your breath and sort of maintain sexual stimulation. I'm sure, some compromise.
What's your land-based choice? He's thinking. He's having a really good think on this one.
Can't get past kangaroos right now.
Really? Is it
Receiving,
a cultural
not
thing?
Giving.
Right.
I'm thinking of there's some quite hot kangaroos online. I don't know if there was one that did the rounds on the internet recently, like a real muscular sort of tough guy kangaroo. And because they're bipeds as well,
I hear you.
There's a point of connection there, We could warm each other up with observations about getting around on foot before eventually settling down to business.
What about a sort of sky-based sexual partner? You got any thoughts on that? Anything come to mind?
Similar problem to having sex with a water-based mammal.
I don't want you to get too tied up in the logistics of the bird one, okay? I just want you to kind of get a vibe check on what is like a sexy bird. So think less about the intricacies of the physical relationship and more about what you're drawn to in an intimate way.
I follow the thinking. I always take a good long look at hawks and falcons when I see them. An albatross,
Yeah, fuck, they seem kind of dumb to me, though.
Yeah, they might be, but
I know they're not.
There's this thing about like relative size that I notice I keep coming back to. Even though this is flight of fancy, obviously, as far as I know, neither of us have any desire to genuinely have sex with these animals. There is some tiny logical cog in my brain that will not let me get hyped up and horned up for anything that isn't roughly my equivalent size. And an albatross's wingspan is obviously far greater than my arm span, but just in terms of a match between man and bird.
Yeah, the weights would probably be about as, close as you're going to get in the bird kingdom.
Unless you're fucking an emu. Oh, I was going to.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if... Actually, I just thought if I was in a very dangerous mood and wanted to sort of engage in some risky behavior to keep things exciting, fucking cassowary. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They are aggressive.
Yeah. I think they're the only bird that is can kill a person, right? That was my understanding. They're the only one that can genuinely take you out quite comfortably.
An ostrich could kill a person.
Really? Is it kind of
an ostrich can defend itself against a big cat with its powerful kicking legs, and if a kick is powerful enough to deter, some sort of apex predator. I know that hypothetically we are, but we probably
not in the
not in the animal kingdom. Yeah, I think an ostrich could kill a person, no doubt. In fact, I'm sure if you punch that into Google, you'll probably come across some pretty grisly snuff films that might go some way to arousing you before they're...
Oof. My initial one was owls, though. I think there's something quite... I think it's the kind of professorial nature of them. They're very book smart.
And we revere owls. You see, you're describing a bird that, as book smart. And that's not usually...
A cassowary is street smart, which is also appealing, but an owl is book smart.
What two animals, interspecies, would you like to see united in coitus, in coital union? Building to a delightful crescendo.
Pure fascination, I would like to see a bear, like a brown bear, and a jellyfish. Because it's almost like, have you seen that video that's online? It comes up every now and then of a monkey just fucking a frog, which I think is dead.
Oh, yeah, that is... That video is funny, and then it's also very dark.
Yeah, it is very dark. It'd kind of be like that. Jellyfish are very weird. I started with the jellyfish in my head. I was just like, what's going to fuck this jellyfish? Because, jellyfish apparently aren't... They're kind of borderline not alive, or they're not an animal, because they're just a collection of cells. They don't have any central nervous system, which is very unusual.
Does that mean that they don't know what's happening?
They've got... Well... we don't even really have an understanding of human consciousness, so I think it would be hubristic to assume we can understand other... But yeah, that's the understanding.
I could outsmart a jellyfish.
I reckon you could, man. They're essentially rubbish bags floating around in the ocean, but they eat things.
Yeah, they probably serve an important ecological function. I mean, if we were to swap out all of the jellyfish with genuine rubbish bags... Who knows?
We're trying. We're giving it a good go. Apparently wasps we could do without, though. I researched this specifically because I fucking hate them. And I was like, if you got rid of them, would the kind of biosphere collapse? And from my limited Googling, people were like, nah, we could actually get rid of wasps. That'd be fine to go.
I've always... it's incredible, isn't it? I've always thought of them as the sort of third Reich of the insect or bug world.
Hard out.
Bees are out here working so hard, literally doing everything for us, and then these sort of similar looking motherfuckers masquerading occasionally as bees. Until as a child, I got stung by both. One time, a friend and I were throwing a rugby ball back and forth, and it went into a bush, and I went to pick it up, and I wound up handling to get to the rugby ball a fallen bee's nest, and I got really stung.
Whoa!
Horribly.
I've never heard this story. So multiple bees all up on your shit.
They did not like, fair enough. I was young. I was 5 or something. It was with Lewis Herbert. And here's a guy who I used to be very close friends with, haven't spoken to for a long time, but ran into him a couple of years ago in Perth, had a beer, Same dude.
How's Lewis?
Wasn't as chatty as I remembered, but he seemed like
People
he
change.
was. He seemed like he was in good fettle.
That's really good to hear. Good on you, Lewis. Can't imagine putting my hand in a fallen bee's nest.
Hindsight being what it is, I wouldn't do it
grisly.
again. Have you got anything more to say about Emmanuelle and Venice, the Big Apple, of course? Or that's not what they call it in Venice. They would call it, Mamma mia, that's a big apple.
You got it. Nah, man. I think I kind of dedicated all mental resources to clocking what was like the plot and the characters. And so there was nothing in the tank for any kind of in real-time commentary that I was saving up. I don't have a lot to say. I will say this. This director, who has made all 7 of these made-for-TV films, man, he loves the association of food and sex, doesn't he?
Man, I feel about food, the food selected and deployed as they have been, I feel the same way about the food and sex as you do about food on mic. It's a real no-no in my book.
It's a liability. There's one point where Emmanuelle and... Wait, now hold on.
Emmanuelle.
Is it Emmanuelle?
Emmanuelle.
It's Penelope, and it's a not possessed Penelope. We should probably get to that. No, wait, is it Penelope? Fuck, I don't know. One of them's having... No, it's Maria. No. Fuck. I've lost it. Someone's having sex with this guy who's like a trust fund baby, and he's like, do you want to have a picnic? And she's like, sure. So they just go into the other room and start eating food, because that's what a picnic is. And the woman, who I can't remember who it is, just like slams a fucking lemon wedge in her mouth and then one in his. And quite rightly, he just kind of, when she turns her head, just takes it out of his mouth and grabs a napkin and like wipes his tongue on it. Because it's a fucking segment of lemon, you crazy broad. What are you trying to do?
What's so good is that even in the sort of sexual fantasy, the treatment of the lemon was very down to earth. Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is working, let's go along with it. It was like, we've made a mistake, okay.
I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to make a big deal out of this.
And a porno, it's so funny to, like, you have the power of edit. I live to laugh, actually. I love to laugh.
What did you make? What was your favourite bit of the film? Did you have a shining light?
Not really. I liked all the plain interstitials, though. I actually wrote down a great George Lazenby quote. Like, all of the lines from him and Sylvia Christel, they are, I reckon they shot it out in a day. But let's not remember in the world of the film that this flight is happening in real time, and all of the cutaways. There was one where Emmanuelle talked about having to make tea for this woman because the woman didn't know how to make tea without her help, and George Lazenby said, "It's a rude awakening when your kitchen in your own home feels like foreign territory." And I thought, like, it's very difficult to apply, but
it's a fucking good line.
It's a pretty good line,
I reckon that's a very astute observation about the alienation of depending on other people all the time. And something that I think the rich suffer, the hyper-rich would suffer from.
Aye.
What the fuck was going on with Jenkins, man? That's what I want to know. Why did he... Because, I really thought they were going to pick that thread up of why the butler needed to take the weekend off. And it looked like a tragedy to me. And they just never explained what was happening.
I just think he's never had a day off in his life, and he just reached boiling point. And then they realised, a frustrated member of the proletariat is not sexy stuff.
So they need to sex it up. He
They were
was
like,
an old dude too. Felt for him. He's obviously led a pretty humble life serving this family, and he looked like he was well into his advanced years. I can't imagine it would have been a good scene. Because Emmanuelle possesses Penelope's daughter, Aeneas, and has like a good time with her. But Aeneas seems like a real fucking bitch.
Yeah,
when Emmanuelle isn't around.
They make a real point of putting a big sign over her head saying hard work early on. She's being very rude. She says that the Jenkins isn't allowed any time off, and then she takes aside her, I don't know what we'd call the relationship, maid, is it?
Maid.
And
They
she
say maid a lot of times.
Just for for a different member of the staff having the audacity to ask for some time off, she just absolutely paced her ass with a whip. And presumably I'm meant to be turned on.
I know, it wasn't even sexy. And maybe like the idea of sexy was different back in the day because we had less awareness of sort of power dynamics and how that feeds into relationships. But like, is it sexy to see an employer just absolutely wailing on an employee? I don't think so. I don't think that's arousing.
Well, apparently some of the time it is.
I know people have their kinks and shit, but like these movies are made for a wholesale broad audience. Is this a common thing?
I'm 13 years old. It's 12:30 a.m. on a Friday night. I've got the room to myself. I don't really care about the power dynamics.
Man, okay, let me put this out there. Should we be making pornography for young audiences? Because it's like the drug debate, right? People go, you can't make drugs legal, people will do drugs. And then I go, hey, wait a second, people already do drugs. So young people have access to all this pornography already, right? Do we need to just accept that fact and make some way better sex-positive stuff to like set some good early examples of how to pursue a healthy sexual relationship with a partner?
It's not your worst idea.
For like 14-year-olds.
And I'll tell you who the guys are, Tim. You're looking at them.
No way. Nope.
Big time.
Not even for a second will I wear this hat.
This is a research project now. And, my research tells me we're on to a winner.
Not happening.
I think it's a good idea. I think that that's ample discussion of Emmanuelle and Venice, and also, various other hot button topics that your mates Tim and Guy aren't afraid to roll their sleeves up and address.
This is the thing about Tim and Guy. Will they discuss bestiality at length on an episode? Yes. Will they also float some ideas on trying to get more sex-positive messages to the youth? Also, yes. It's a buffet you'll want to have sex with because the director of these films loves associating food with fucking.
It's a buffet of fuck.